I'm Debera Kermusel from 1E3 BS Criminology. So, criminal justice system is a system which consists several parts that interacts with each other to produce some results. And also, the criminal justice system defined as the machinery of the society uses to prevent and control of crimes. Also, the criminal justice system is a system which uses by the government to maintain social control, enforce law, prosecute offenders, administering justice, sentencing, and rehabilitation of offenders. So the criminal justice system consists of 5 pillars, which is the law enforcement pillar, the prosecution pillar, the correction pillar, the court pillar, and the community pillar. So ang criminal justice system ng Pilipinas ay merong 5, which is yung law enforcement pillar, the prosecution, correction court, and community pillar. So, yung 5 pillars na yun yung bumubuo sa criminal justice system ng Pilipinas. So, let's tackle the law enforcement pillar. So, the law enforcement pillar comprising of the Philippine National Police, the National Bureau of Investigation, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, the National Police Commission or the NAPOCOM, and the last is the Armed Forces of the Philippines. So the Philippine National Police focus on the prevention and control of crime. So the primary goal of law enforcement is the crime prevention, and also the law enforcement pillar is the initiator or the prime mover. So let's move to the second pillar of the criminal justice system, which is the prosecution. So the prosecution comprising of the Department of Justice, Office of the Ombudsman, and the Public Attorney's Office. So the primary concern of the prosecution is the investigation of the grievances or complaint. So the prosecutor is the one who will verify whether or not the person arrested will be placed under the criminal justice process. He also determines whether the evidence gathered by the police meet the standard of proof of successful prosecution conviction. The prosecution system in the Philippines rooted in those countries whose legal system was ahead of the Philippines, which includes the following: the adversarial system, a system of prosecution otherwise known as accusatorial, which adopted by most countries that have common laws, whereby the victim or his representative have the primary responsibility to find and present the evidences to the court. The judge will listen to the accusation and determine the applicable punishment to the accused. The next system is the inquisitorial system. This system is used in some continental countries, where the judges searches the facts, listen to the witnesses to be taken, and investigate to prove the guilt or innocence of the accused. The next system is the mixed system. This system adopts both accusatorial and inquisitorial, where the victim or his representative provide the facts, evidences, testimony of the witnesses to prove the guilt of the accused. The judge will investigate and determine the guilt of the accused beyond reasonable doubt. The mixed approach used and applied in the Philippines. So what is prosecution? Prosecution, it is the process or methods whereby the accusation are brought before the court of justice to determine the guilt or innocence of the accused. So what is a prosecutor? Prosecutor is a person who is a quasi-judicial officer who assumes for discretion and control over criminal case and administration of justice. And also, the prosecutor represents the government or the people of the Philippines in criminal proceedings in court of law. He also determines what case shall be filed in court and what case shall be dropped. He also verifies whether or not the arrested person will be placed under criminal justice process, and also he determines whether the evidence gathered by the police meets the standard of proof of successful prosecution and conviction. So prosecution service are made up of the chief prosecutors, the regional prosecutors, the provincial prosecutors, the city prosecutors, the municipal prosecutors, and such other prosecutorial offices as may be established by the law. So inquest proceeding may be conducted. An inquest is an informal and summary investigation conducted by the public prosecutor in criminal case involving the person arrested and detained without the benefit of warrant of arrest. This also done for the purpose of determining whether or not the said person or the arrested person should remain under the custody and correspondingly be charged in court. So what is accused? Accused is always presumed innocent to be able to establish due process of law and should prove the accusation beyond the reasonable doubt. So what is reasonable doubt? Reasonable doubt it is the condition of mind to produce proof resulting from evidences in the case. Preliminary investigation it is an inquiry or proceeding purpose of determining whether there is a sufficient ground to in a well-founded belief that a crime cognizable by the RTC or the regional trial court has been committed. Mandamus is a writ from High Court or ordering or compelling the performance of public duty, while the complaint is a sworn written statement charging a person with an offense, and the information is accusation in writing charging a person with an offense. So next is correction pillar. Correction pillar comprising of Bureau of Corrections, Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, Parole and Probation Administration, and Board of Pardons and Parole. So what is corrections? Correction is the branch of pillar and a component of criminal justice system concerned with the custody, supervision, rehabilitation of the criminal offenders. What is punishment? Punishment is the redress that the state takes against an offending member of the society that usually involves pain and suffering. It is also imposed penalty to an offender for a crime or wrongdoing. So there are 5 ancient forms of punishment, which is the death penalty, physical torture, social degradation, banishment or exile, and other similar forms of punishment such as like transportation and slavery. So death penalty, affected by burning, yung sinusunog, beheading, pinupugutan ng ulo, hanging, yung binibitay, yung nakahanging, yung binibigte, and breaking at the wheels, pilloried, and other medieval forms of executions. While physical torture, affected by maiming, mutilation, yung whipping, yung nilalatigo, and other inhumane or barbaric forms of executions. While social degradation, putting an offender into a shame or humiliation. Kunwari yung offender is yung offender nga, paglalaki siya siguro na nakahubad-hubad, na may nakalagay dito, may karatula, may nakasabit sa kanya something na will put his or her into a humiliation and shame. While banishment and exile, the sending or putting away of an offender which was carried out by prohibition against coming to a specified territory such as an island where the offender has been removed. Just like Dr. Sarsal, he's been exiled, so that is the example of banishment or exile. There is also early forms of prison discipline, which is hard labor, deprivation, monotony, uniformity, mass movement, degradation, corporal punishment, excitation, or solitary confinement. So, ang hard labor which is productive works, which is yung pagbubukaling ka ng lupa or paggagawain ka ng building. While the deprivation of everything except the bare essentials of existence. Like you will not be allowed to see your families or relatives, and you will not also allowed to go out the prison. So monotony, giving the same food that is off diet or requiring the prisoners to perform job or boring daily routine. Yun yung paulit-ulit yung pagkain, tsaka paulit-ulit yung ginagawa yung certain task. While uniformity, we treat the prisoners alike. The fault of one is the fault of all. Kunwari may nagawang kasalanan yung isang prisoner, damay-damay silang lahat doon sa punishment. While mas movement, mas living in cell blocks, mas eating, mas recreation, mas batting yung parang yung sabay-sabay silang gagawin yung isang bagay. So, degradation, uttering insulting words or languages on the part of prison, stop to the prisoners to degrade or break the confidence of prisoners. Kunwari, sasabihan ka ng mga masasakit na salita para bumaba yung confidence, para ganon. O kaya, yun, sasabihan ka nga ng masasakit na salita, mga nakaka-insultong salita. So, while the corporal punishment, imposing brutal punishment or employing physical force to intimidate the delinquent inmate. Yung gagamitin niya ng physical force, kunwari siguro sasaktan, ganon. Well, the isolation or solitary confinement, yung non-communication limited news, yung the lone wolf, yung yung parang nasa isang selda ka lang, yung wala, isolation, mag-isa ka lang, yung naka-Bartolina, yun ang tawag doon. So, that is the early forms of prison discipline. So, there are two rival prison systems in the history of correction, which is the Auburn prison system and the Pennsylvania prison system. So, the Auburn prison system, this prison system called the congregate system. The prisoners are confined in their own cells during the night and congregate work in the shops during the day. So, complete silence was enforced. Well, the Pennsylvania prison system, this prison system called the solitary system. Prisoners are confined in single cells day at night where they live. They slept, they ate, they also received religious instructions, and complete silence was also enforced. They are required to read the Bible. So, these are the two rival prison systems in the history of correction, which is the Auburn prison system and then Pennsylvania prison system. So, what is penalty? Penalty is defined as the suffering inflicted by the state against the offending member for the transgression of law. So, we have duration of penalties. We have reclusion perpetua, term of imprisonment, 20 years and 1 day to 40 years. We have reclusion temporal, term of imprisonment, 12 years, 1 day to 20 years. We have prison mayor, term of imprisonment, 6 years and 1 day to 12 years. We have prison correctional, term of imprisonment, 6 months and 1 day to 6 years. We have arresto mayor, 1 month and 1 day to 6 months. And we have arresto minor, 1 day to 30 days. So next is the fourth pillar of the criminal justice system, which is the court. Court comprising of the Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, Court of Tax Appeals, and the Sandigan Bayan. And also the court is the cornerstone of the Philippine justice system. So we have the regional trial court, the court of the first instance. Also, the regional trial court exercised the appellate jurisdiction over all cases decided by the Metropolitan Trial Court, Municipal Trial Court in the cities, and the Municipal Circuit Trial Court in their respective territorial jurisdiction. Also, the regional trial court of the offenses whose imposable penalty is more than 6 years, while the Municipal Trial Court all the offenses with the imprisonment of not more than 6 years and covers only one municipality, while the Metropolitan Trial Court who all offenses with the imprisonment of not more than 6 years specific to the areas of the NCR, while the Municipal Circuit Trial Court all offenses with imprisonment of not more than 6 years covers only 2 or more municipalities. There's also a special court, which is the Court of Tax Appeals and the Sandigan Bayan. So, arraignment. Arraignment is a formal reading of the charges before the accused in an open court and asking him whether he pleads guilty or not as charged, while plea is the answer given by the accused during an arraignment. So, ang arraignment ay yun yung pagbasa ng sakdal, and yung plea yung pag-amin ng akusado whether he is guilty or not guilty. So there's also a pre-trial. So the pre-trial is a mandatory conference in a criminal proceeding called by the judge requiring the presence of both parties. The purpose of this is to expedite the trial of the case. So there's also a judgment. The judgment is the adjudication by the court to the accused that the accused is guilty or not guilty of an offense charge, and with the imposition of the proper penalty and civil liability if any. So there's also a trial. Trial is the examination before a competent tribunal of the facts put in a issue in a case. So that's it for the fourth pillar of the criminal justice system, which is the court. So that's all for the criminal justice system in the Philippines, and I repeat, the criminal justice system in the Philippines are composed of 5 pillars, which is the law enforcement pillars, the prosecution pillars, the correction pillars, the court pillars, and the community pillars. So yung 5 pillars na yun ang bumubuo sa criminal justice system ng Pilipinas.